All right, my secondary math 2 people, we are going to be continuing to talk about solving quadratic equations, okay? So basically, if you remember from last time, all solving quadratic equations is factoring, and then the very last step is setting it equal to 0 and solving. So a good hint that we're actually trying to solve something is whenever you see an equal sign, okay? These are equations, and usually that means we have to solve something, okay? Figure out what x is, okay? So let's go ahead and look at number 1, okay? So if I'm trying to factor number 1 in order to solve it, we need to look at the last number, okay? Well, if my last number is -9, that means I need two factors that multiply to -9, but then are going to add to what? What are the two numbers actually going to add to? It's not x squared, it's something in between this x squared and -9. Remember, it usually is in front of an x. Okay, well, if nothing's there, that means it's actually a 0. So we need these two numbers to add to give me a 0. Okay, so what are two factors of 9 that when we add them together we'll actually get a 0? Okay, so we have 1 times 9. Okay, 1 minus 9 is going to give me -8, so that's obviously not it. And then we have a 3 times 3. Remember, 1 has to be negative in order to get a -9. So 3 minus 3 does give us 0. Okay, so we found our two numbers. When factoring, add up to give us 0. So we have an x plus 3 for the positive 3, and x minus 3 for the -3. The only last step is now we bring down that equals 0. Okay, because when we bring down that equals 0, what we're actually doing is we need to take each piece and set it equal to 0 and solve. So I'm going to take my first piece, x plus 3, set it equal to 0 and solve. Okay, I need to get x by itself, so I need to get rid of this plus 3. Well, the opposite of plus 3 is subtract 3. So I have x equals 0 minus 3 is -3. So there's my first answer. Okay, now I'm going to take my second piece. Let's do purple. Okay, x minus 3 equals 0 and solve. Okay, the opposite of -3 is plus 3. So my second answer is +3. Okay, whenever you're solving quadratics, you're always going to get two answers. Okay, but look here. The opposites of -3 and +3 are -3 and +3, right? So it's really just once you find those numbers, it's those opposites. Okay, number 2. So let's look at our last number. So we have a positive 14. Okay, we need factors of 14 that are going to add to give me 9. Okay, well, what are factors of 14? So we have 1 times 14, but that's going to add to be 15, so that's not it. Okay, what about 2 times 7? 2 plus 7, 9. Oh, yay, that's it. Okay, so we found our two numbers. So this time it's a b, so we have b plus 2 for a positive 2, and a b plus 7 for positive 7. Bring down your equals 0. Okay, because we are going to take each piece, set it equal to 0, and solve. Okay, so I'm going to take my b plus 2, set it equal to 0. And the only way to get rid of positive 2 is subtract it. So my first answer is b equals -2. Okay, now I'm going to take my second piece, b plus 7, equal to 0 and solve. Subtract the 7 to get b all by itself. My second answer is -7, which isn't -2 and -7 the opposite of positive 2 and positive 7? Yep, so they're just the opposites. Perfect. So remember, whenever we're solving quadratics, you're going to get two answers. Okay, for 3, how in the world are we going to factor this guy? Okay, well, there are only two terms, so we need to say, do they have anything in common? So look at n squared and n. Do they have anything in common? They do. They both at least have one n, so we can factor out that n. Okay, what's left over? N squared divided by 1n, or think 2 n's, take away 1. I'm left with 1. And then anything, n divided by itself, n over n, is going to give me 1. Okay, so now I have my two pieces. I really didn't need to factor. I have my two pieces, so we can set them equal to 0 and solve. So n equals 0. Oh, guess what? N is already by itself. That's one of our answers. 0 is one of our answers. Okay, now I'm going to set my second piece equal to 0 and plus 1 equal to 0 and solve. Okay, got to get rid of the plus 1 by subtracting it, so my other answer is negative 1. Okay. So this one, when factoring, you always want to see if they have anything in common. Okay, this case they did. They have an n. So let's go ahead and look at 4. Okay, all three of these terms don't have anything in common, so we're going to have to factor it like we've been factoring the other quadratics. So we need to look at 14. Okay, factors of 14 that are going to add to give me negative 9. We'll look up here. Okay, we already found two factors of 14 that are going to give me a positive 9. But remember, we can always take a negative times a negative to give me a positive. And guess what? Negative 2 minus 7 gives me negative 9. Okay, so we kind of already factored that one. We just had to turn them both negative. So now we have x minus 2, x minus 7. Okay, bring down that equals 0. Okay, because we're going to take each one of these pieces, set it equal to 0 and solve. X minus 2 equals 0. Go ahead and solve. So we got to get rid of minus 2 by adding it. So we have x equals positive 2 this time. Okay, take the second piece, set it equal to 0. X minus 7 equals 0, and let's solve. Opposite of minus 7 is plus 7. Whoops, plus 7 on both sides. So our other answer is x equals, whoops, can't see. X equals 7. Awesome. Okay, now let's look at number 5. Okay, notice on all of the ones before, we already had an equals 0, equals 0, equals 0, and equals 0. Okay, we don't have an equals 0 on number 5. Okay, so we need to make this note on our paper. Must equal 0 to solve. It has to equal 0 in order to solve. So we just have this piece that we need to move over there. So we do the opposite of it. The opposite of a positive 3x is going to be a negative 3x. That's how we move it over there. Okay, so now I have x squared that was already over there. I'm going to put my term with the x in the middle. Remember, the one with the x in the middle always goes, oh, those are bad examples. The one with the x in the always goes in the middle. Okay, so we have x squared minus 3x, now minus 28 that was already over there, and now it's equal to 0. Now we can solve it. Okay, so we can go ahead and look at our last number. So that's why it's so important we have to put the one with just one x in the middle, or else you'd be looking at the wrong number. Okay, we need to look at negative 28. We need factors that are going to add to negative 3. So what are two numbers that multiply to negative 28 but are going to add to negative 3? So let's try some. So we know 1 and 28 probably won't, but let's try maybe 2 and negative 14. It's going to give me negative 12. That's not quite it. What about, is 28 a factor of 3? I don't think so. Can we divide 28 by 3? I'm checking. No, we get a decimal. What about 4? 4 times negative 7. 4 minus 7, negative 3. Oh, we got it. Yay. Okay, so we found our two numbers. 4 and negative 7. So we have our two parentheses. It was an x, so x plus 4 for positive 4, and x minus 7 for negative 7. Okay, we bring down that equals 0, which I already did, because then we take each piece, set it equal to 0, and solve. Okay, so I'm going to take x plus 4. Let me zoom out a little just so you can see the whole thing. X plus 4, I'm going to take it over here, set it equal to 0, and solve. The opposite of plus 4 is minus 4. So x equals negative 4, one of our answers. Okay, we're not done because we have to take the second piece, x minus 7, set it equal to 0, and solve. The opposite of minus 7 is plus 7. So our second answer is positive 7, which again, these guys are just the opposites of these guys. Perfect. Okay, so let's look at number 6. So does number 6 equal 0? No. That means we need to move, we need to move that negative 2x. Okay, well the opposite of a negative 2x is going to be a positive 2x. That's going to move it over there. Okay, so now we have x squared. Put the one with 1x in the middle, so now it's a positive 2x because we added it. Okay, negative 15, that was already there. Now it equals 0. Now we can go ahead and solve. Okay, so look at your last number. In this case, it's negative 15. We need factors of negative 15 that are going to add to a positive 2. Okay, well, one has to be positive, one has to be negative. That's going to give me 1 minus 14 is negative, or 15 negative 14. Nope. Okay, what about 3 negative 5? That's going to give me a negative 2. We're close. We need a positive 2. So what about 5 and negative 3? That's going to give me a positive 2. Okay, so we got our two numbers, 5 and negative 3. So we have an x plus 5 for positive 5, x minus 3 for negative 3. Set it equal to 0. And now we can go ahead and take each piece and solve. Okay, so I'm going to take my first piece, which is x plus 5. So x plus 5 equals 0, and I'm going to solve. Opposite of plus 5, minus 5. X equals negative 5 is my first answer. Okay, now I'm going to take my second piece, x minus 3, set it equal to 0. Opposite of minus 3 is plus 3. So my second answer is positive 3. And there are my two answers. Remember, always when we're solving quadratics, are you going to get two answers? Okay, two more examples. So look at number 7. So we know that number 7 is not equal to 0, but which ones do we want to move? Do we want to move the a squared or the 2 and the a? I want to move the 2 and the a because I always want to keep the one squared positive. I don't want to subtract it. So I'm going to move the positive 2 by subtracting it. It's going to move it over there. And I'm going to move the positive a by also, subtracting it. And that's also going to move it over there. Okay, so now I have a squared. Which one comes next? The 2 or the a? The negative a, and then the negative 2. And now it equals 0. Okay, so let's go ahead and solve this. Look at our third number first. What factors of negative 2 are going to add to give me a negative 1? Remember, that's a 1, negative 1. Okay, well, I have 1 times negative 2. That's going to give me, oh, wow, we're good. First try. Negative 1. Okay, found our two numbers. So we get a, positive 1, so plus 1, and a minus 2. Set it equal to 0, so we can go ahead and solve. Okay, so take your first piece, which is a plus 1, set it equal to 0. Opposite of plus 1 is minus 1. So we get a equals negative 1. Okay, take your second piece, set it equal to 0. A minus 2 equals 0. The opposite of minus 2 is plus 2. So my second answer is A equals 2. Which again, positive 2 is the opposite of negative 2. Negative 1 is the, is the opposite of positive 1. Okay, last example. So again, it's not equal to 0. Which ones do we want to move? If I want to keep x squared positive, I want to move these two guys. So the opposite of minus 12x is add 12x. It's going to move it over there. Opposite of minus 35 is plus 35. And it's going to put it over there. Okay, so now there's nothing on that side. So we get x squared, that was already over there. The one with the x comes next, so plus 12x and plus 35, and now it equals 0. Okay, so let's look at our third number, which is positive 35. I need factors of 35 that are going to add to 12. Okay, well, we know 1 and 35 are not going to add to 12, so maybe let's try 3 doesn't go into it, 4 doesn't, maybe like 5 times 7. What is 5 plus 7? Oh, nice. That gives us our 12 we were looking for. Okay, so we found our two numbers. In our first parentheses, we have an x plus 5 for positive 5. Second one, x plus 7 for positive 7. And it equals 0. So we can take each one of these pieces, set it equal to 0, and solve. So x plus 5 equals 0. Okay, opposite of plus 5 is minus 5. So my first answer is x equals negative 5. And lastly, our second piece, x plus 7 equals 0. Opposite of plus 7 is minus 7. So x equals negative 7. Okay, which you just could have said, okay, the opposite of a positive 5 is a negative 5. Opposite of positive 7 is negative 7. And there we go. Okay, there are your notes for today. There's an assignment that goes with it.